So all cells capture and release energy. Let's start on your study guide with a review. You had 3 statements on the front of your study guide under number 1. You were to tell me whether they were true or false, and if they were false, you were to tell me what correction would you make to make it true. So starting with the first statement, Josh, plant cells and animal cells have similarities and differences. Is that true or false?
True.
That is true. Can anyone name one difference between plants and animals? Go ahead.
Plant cell has a cell wall and animal cell doesn't.
Plant cell has a cell wall which provides protection and kind of a skeleton so that the plant, the grass, the dandelion, the flower, the tree, the shrub, the whatever, the plant can actually stand up. It's not always laying down. You have a skeleton.
Thank you.
No problem.
It's getting done.
What? Bones are made out of cells, yes. Marrow, which is where your red blood cells are made. Okay, next statement. Let's go over a couple more differences. Plant cells have a cell wall. What else do they have that animal cells do not have?
Vacuole.
Well, they both have vacuoles, but how is a plant cell vacuole different?
It's really big, right?
It's big and it contains water that also helps keep the plant standing up tall. One more difference. Chloroplasts, which is what we're focusing on for this study guide. Plant cells have chloroplasts, animal cells do not. Next statement. Plant cells make their own food, but animal cells do not. True or false? Liz?
True.
That is true. Plant cells do make their own food, and where do they make it?
The sun?
No, that's what they use to make it. That's kind of one of the ingredients they use to make it.
They make it inside of them, don't
They make it inside a certain part of the cell that we've already mentioned. What cell organelle is kind of the oven where the food is made? No? Liz?
Oh, mitochondria?
No, but you're getting warmer. Cameron? The chloroplast. We just mentioned it. Plant cells make the food in the chloroplast. The chloroplast is kind of the kitchen where the food is made.
So we use, over the summer, I used to break the dandelions for my guinea pig for her to eat. Is that what that liquidy stuff is inside?
No, that's something else that's in a dandelion. It's not, well, it could be part of the food that's made in the chloroplast, but not exactly. Yeah, the white milky substance, yeah. The last statement says the chemical reaction is the basic unit of all living things. That's false. What is it?
Cell.
The cell is the basic unit of all living things. Very good. Moving on. We need to review energy. Think back to our unit on work and energy. We discussed 5 types of energy. Name one.
Nuclear.
Nuclear energy. Very good. Name another one. Mechanical energy. Fantastic. Thermal energy. Kinetic energy is part of...
Wait, hold on.
Corey said it.
I haven't heard
The guy who fixes cars.
Mechanical.
Kinetic energy is part of mechanical. Did you want to name a different one?
Wait, what?
Did you want to name a different type of energy? Chemical energy. And I think there's one more. 3? That's also part of mechanical.
Thermal?
Did you say thermal? All right, let's see which one we're missing. We got thermal. Thermal is heat.
Yeah.
This is the one we missed. Electromagnetic energy, which covers a broad spectrum of things. Light and waves and anything that travels in waves, like sound, and magnetism. And the next type, chemical energy, which we said, and mechanical energy, which we said. You might want to write those down on the paper. After you write these, circle the one you think we're going to focus on for this particular unit. Think about what we've been talking about. Yeah. Write those. Circle the...
Oh.
Circle the one that we're talking about with this unit, or focusing on for this unit. So which one do you think we're going to focus on for this unit? Good. It's on your paper if you need a hint. Yep. 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 Look on your study guide. See if you can figure it out. Circle the one we're focusing on for this unit. Good. Yep. Hold up. Yep. Yep. Nope. Get it. All right. So the one we're focusing on for this unit is chemical energy. Take a look. What types of energy do you see being transferred in the following animation? Remember that energy transfers. You didn't finish. Get it from Isaiah. As you watch, I'm going to mouse over the parts of the animation to see how the energy goes from one form to another. And remember that the energy units are in kilojoules. A joule is 1. A kilojoule is how many? It's a specific number.
1,000.
1,000. Kilo means 1,000. All right, let's take a look at this, see what's going on. This could be any kind of environment here in our school district, right? We see these types of things.
The word was funny.
Name some energy sources that you see. Josh, name an energy source. The sun. What kind of energy does the sun provide? Look at your list. Thermal and electromagnetic. What uses or transforms that sun's energy into a different kind?
The grass.
The grass. So the sun provides 2,017,520 kilojoules of light energy per square meter. That is a huge amount of energy. The grass converts 25,219 kilojoules of that sun's energy into carbon compounds, meaning molecules made of carbon, by the process of photosynthesis. All right, so we transferred electromagnetic into, what kind of energy would that be in the grass? Chemical. All right, now where does that chemical energy go? It doesn't just stay there. Where does that chemical energy transfer to? Andrew. Hi, welcome back. What uses the grass for energy? Look up there. What things do you see? The cow. Okay, the cow takes in 3,056 kilojoules of energy in the grass it eats. What kind of energy would that be? Well, it's kinetic energy as his mouth is moving, but what kind of energy does he actually get from the grass to give him that kinetic energy? No? Sarah? Chemical energy. So in this case, the energy just transferred place, not form. Chemical energy in the grass goes to chemical energy in the cow. What else in this picture would get chemical energy from the grass? Josh? Chelsea? What else would get chemical energy from the grass? Nope. The sun provides electromagnetic energy to the grass. What gets energy from the grass? The snail, which is a herbivore, which means it eats vegetation like grass. It says the snail competes with the cow and takes in about the same amount of kilojoules of energy stored in the grass. So once the cow has the energy, this is a cow. What does it turn that energy into? Elena?
Feces.
Yes.
No way.
Way.
Poop.
Who uses that energy? Because there's still energy in cow poop.
I know. Worm.
The worm. The worm takes the energy from the detritus food chain, which is dead material. And what kind of energy is it? Still chemical energy. The cow also turns that chemical energy into mechanical energy, which allows it to move its legs and move its mouth, etc., etc. Anything else?
What about like when you use like their poop to make like fertilizer?
Then you're essentially recycling the chemical energy from the sun to the grass to the cow to the poop back into the ground, which would be used by the grass, the things growing there. Good. All right. Good review of energy. Hopefully you wrote some of that down. Oh, no, you might want to take a moment, write some of that down. Energy transfers, energy transforms. Goes from one form to another, and sometimes stays in the same form, but goes from one organism to another. The words don't have any information that we just went over. It was just telling you what to do when you clicked. So let's see if you remember what we just went over. Jasmine, what kind of energy would be found here in the diagram? Okay, what kind of energy though? Think of the 5 types that you wrote down earlier. Thermal is part of it, and
Eye contact.
I'll give you a hint. Light energy. You see where it says light energy? Okay, the light energy turns into what kind of energy in the producers and consumers, Liz? No, what type of energy? It is electromagnetic, and it changes into chemical, because that's what you use to see light. And chemical energy can be turned into mechanical energy, which is what any organism would use to move. All right. Moving on. You need to be completely aware of what chemical energy means. So take a look at your study guide. This is number 2. They gave you the characteristics in the non-examples. Characteristics of chemical energy are that cells use chemical energy to function, and the non-example is an atom by itself. What is the definition of chemical energy, Daniel?
The energy stored in bonds between the atoms and over energy stored in bonds between the atoms of every molecule.
Okay, the energy stored in bonds between the atoms of molecules. Who made our molecule the other day, a couple weeks ago? Brianna, you? And who? Who did you bond to make a molecule?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
No, it's Christian.
Anthony and Christian. Okay, Anthony and Christian, remember, they bonded together. If you want to release the energy stored in the bonds between 2 or more atoms, what do you have to do? If you want to release the energy stored,
Break them apart.
you break them apart. Exactly right. So what molecule gets broken apart to release energy in living organisms? Definition. Up there. You know? Very nice. Glucose is the chemical source of energy for living organisms. Glucose is this molecule. Yes?
If you like cut your arm off, like your finger off or something, you release energy?
No. Well, I suppose on a molecular level, sure. But you're wasting energy. You're needing to use energy to repair all of the damage that was done if that happens. Okay, here are your definition and examples. Write those down. Energy, by the way, is also a molecule, which I'll show you in a minute. It's kind of a longer, bigger molecule called ATP. Okay, these are the molecules you need to know for this section. You need to know carbon dioxide, small molecule. You need to know water. Slightly larger. And you need to know oxygen. You also need to know energy and glucose. Carbon dioxide, water, and oxygen, along with energy and glucose. A little note about energy here. This is an energy molecule. It's called ATP. Got a longer name, but don't worry about it. We talked about when you release the energy, you have to break bonds. When this molecule, it's between these last two phosphorus atoms at the end. When the last one gets broken off, that's when the energy is released. What did you just learn about that's going to use the energy from this molecule? What process did we just learn that requires energy? It's one of those three processes that allows materials in or out of a cell. Brianna. Active transport. Remember when we acted out active transport? And we had the protein, and it had to have energy in order to open. What did I tell you about energy then?
Yeah. Oh, it disappears, and there has to be a new one created.
Right. That energy, what were you going to say?
I was going to say it needs to be recharged.
It has to be recharged. So once this bond breaks, once that one atom is released from the back end of the energy molecule, it has to be recharged. It can't be used as energy anymore. That molecule goes to someplace else in the cell, which we're going to learn, and that tail gets reattached. And then it goes, molecule travels to the cell membrane, is used for active transport, goes back to a place we'll talk about in a few minutes, gets recharged, and the cycle continues. Any questions about your molecules? You need to know these 5. You kind of need to know what they look like, especially whether they're big or small, and what they do. Okay, let's focus on photosynthesis. Taking a look, photosynthesis takes place where? Chloroplast. You need to know that name. You need to know what it is and what it looks like. It says takes place in the chloroplast in plants and other autotrophs. What's an autotroph? Think about what auto means.
It does it itself.
Self. Auto means self. It can do it itself. What does troph mean? Nope. It actually means to feed. So an autotroph feeds itself, meaning the food molecules it needs gets made right inside the organism. It doesn't have to eat.
How's the word trophy make sense?
Troph. T-R-O-P-H, not trophy. This is what chloroplasts look like in a section of leaf cells. Many cells. Each little green circle inside those cells is one chloroplast. So do leaf cells contain many chloroplasts or just a few? Many, many, many. Could you count the chloroplasts in one leaf cell?
No.
Probably. You could look at those and count them. But you'd have 20, 30, 40 chloroplasts in just one cell. So you understand? This is one cell.
31.
And there are many cells. And in each cell, there are many chloroplasts. This is an example of a close-up view of 2 chloroplasts. Those 2 green structures, taken with an electron microscope, and then digitally colored in, basically. The general formula for photosynthesis. You should write this on your note paper. You need to know this formula. The general formula for photosynthesis is carbon dioxide plus water plus light. When you see an arrow in a chemical formula, that you say the word yields, but it means makes or produces. Glucose plus oxygen. Carbon dioxide plus water plus light yields glucose and oxygen. On your notebook paper, yep, write down where you think the molecules come from, how do they get into the cell. Take a look at what's going on. Write it down first.
What's the question?
Well, for example, okay, we start with carbon dioxide and water. Where does the carbon dioxide come from? Where does the water come from? Write it on your paper, we'll go over it in a second. Then it says yields glucose and oxygen. What happens to the glucose? What happens to the oxygen? So what did you come up with? Where does the water go? Or how does the water get into the plant? Cameron? That's how it gets into the plant cells. Where does it actually come from in the plant, like the whole organism? Yeah, water comes up through the roots, and it gets into each and every plant cell by the process of osmosis. What about carbon dioxide? Anthony?
Air.
That comes from the air. And what part of the plant does it go into?
The leaf.
It goes into the leaves. And what process allows that carbon dioxide into the cells? Diffusion. Okay, how about the products, glucose and oxygen? Where does the glucose go? Sarah? Yeah, it stays in the leaves. It also travels to other parts of the plant, goes to all the cells. How about the oxygen? Josh, where does the oxygen go? One more time. Goes into the air, so it leaves the plant? Yes. And how does it get out of the plant cells? What process? Your choices are osmosis, diffusion, active transport. How does oxygen leave a plant cell? Diffusion. Very good. All right, you can continue to write.
Hello. Today we are meeting outside so that we can discuss the concept of photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the process that most plants go through to make food. Plants get the raw materials needed for photosynthesis from the soil, the air, and the sun. When it rains, water gets absorbed into the ground. Plants take in the water along with minerals from the soil through its roots.
Add some notes to what you've already
In the
written.
roots, plants have tubes called the xylem and phloem. These tubes, or veins, run throughout the plant and bring water and minerals from the soil to its leaves. Leaves bring in carbon dioxide from tiny pores, or stomata, on the underside of the leaf. Now that we have water and carbon dioxide in the leaf, we are ready for photosynthesis, right? Wrong. We're missing the key ingredient. Let's bring out the sun now, please. Now it gets really interesting. It is in the leaves of the plant that most of the action takes place. If we look at a leaf under a microscope, we see that right below the outer layer of cells, there is a layer of soft, elongated cells called palisade cells. Inside the palisade cells are tiny nodules called chloroplasts. Chloroplasts contain a special chemical called chlorophyll. It is chlorophyll, by the way, that gives plants a distinctive green color. When the light energy from the sun is captured by the chloroplast, it is stored in stacks of thylakoid membranes. It is in these membranes that the chemical reaction of photosynthesis takes place. Chlorophyll is the catalyst. Think of it as lining up all the molecules for the reaction. Let's take a look at this reaction. The absorbed light energy from the sun is used to join water and carbon dioxide to form glucose, or sugar. The glucose is then distributed throughout the plant as food.
Can you see how those three things up there make this molecule here? Can you see how the green and the red and the black, if you broke those all apart, could you reform them if you had enough? Could you reform them into one of these? Yes, that's what happens in a chemical reaction. You take apart the water molecule, you take apart the carbon dioxide molecule, and if you have enough of those molecules, you can reform them into some other molecule. That's all a chemical reaction is. Breaking apart molecules into their atoms and reforming them into some other different structure. And when you do that, you get some oxygen left over. And that's what the plant releases.
Oxygen is a byproduct of this reaction and is released back into the air. And that is how most plants prepare food for themselves. I hope you've enjoyed this brief description of photosynthesis. And I hope to see you again soon. Goodbye.
All right, take a look at your study guide. Now, you need to fill in number 3. No. Yep. All right, so some cells capture light energy based on what we just saw, learned, etc. What did you fill in for number 1? It says the plant takes in blank and blank. Isaiah. Very good. Number 2, inside the chloroplast, what pigment captures energy from the sun? Chlorophyll is that green pigment. Number 3, this energy changes water and carbon dioxide to, Josh? Glucose and oxygen. You should be filling in your study guide. And number 4, which one of those does the plant keep and which one does the plant get rid of? Elena?
Glucose.
Keeps glucose. Releases oxygen. Last week we talked about photosynthesis and how photosynthesis takes water and carbon dioxide and makes oxygen and glucose. But that only happens if there is light present. Today we're going to study the opposite of that, called respiration. Respiration is how cells release stored energy. Which molecule that photosynthesis made actually stored the energy? Which of those 2 molecules on the right, oxygen or glucose, stores the energy that's going to get broken down? Which one's the food? Glucose. Glucose is the food molecule that we break down when we release energy. Take a look in your book under the title, All Cells Release Energy. It's on page 50. 50. Energy is stored. Think back to the first few slides that we dealt with last week. We talked about the different forms of energy. What's another name for stored energy? We learned this a couple of units ago. Energy that is stored due to its position or condition. What's that called? Stored energy.
Active transport?
No. Think like several units ago. Work and energy. What's stored energy called? Kind of. It was part of mechanical energy. Potential. Stored energy is called, eyes up front, and you might want to be taking notes. Stored energy is called chemical, or in this case, chemical potential energy. Derek, will you read the next question?
Where do cells get stored energy from?
Where do cells get their stored energy from? We just went over this. I think it was Gavin. What molecule stores the energy?
Glucose.
The glucose. And what is that to us? Sugar, otherwise known as food, right. It's the food molecules that we eat, called chemical potential energy. Does that make sense, Emmett? Right. Do plants eat? No, plants do not eat. Why don't plants eat anything?
Because it makes its own food.
Right, because it makes its food inside each of its cells. It doesn't have to eat any food. It makes its own food, and then it takes that food to a different place in the cell and breaks it down right away. So take a look at number 4 on your study guide. The question asks, what are 2 ways that all cells release stored energy? You've got energy stored in glucose. How do cells take that glucose, Wyatt, and release it? Number 4. Bless you. We'll look it up. Under all cells release energy. Yes, but how do they break it down? There's the name of 2 processes. If you don't know, you can pass.
Cellular respiration and fermentation.
Correct. Fermentation and respiration. We're going to focus on respiration, Derek. We'll cover fermentation briefly, but we're not going to focus on it. Did you write this down? Ready? Okay. Where does respiration take place? Dawson, will you read, please?
Takes place in the mitochondria in the plant and animal cells. What mitochondria looks like inside the cell? Red circles and a heart cell.
So do you see all of these red circles? Are there a lot or only a few? Each of these little red circles is one mitochondrion. A lot or a little, Emmett?
A lot.
A lot. Would that be normal for a muscle cell, like a heart muscle cell?
Yeah.
Why? Why would a muscle cell, this is for anybody, why would a muscle cell, like your heart muscle, need to have a lot of mitochondria? What do mitochondria do? Matthew? They release the energy from glucose, right? So would a muscle cell need a lot of energy? Right. Why does a muscle cell need a lot of energy, Wyatt? Which would be for a muscle? What do muscles do? Well, they move, right? If your heart is pumping, you want your heart to keep pumping all day, every day, and all night, right?
Yep.
So it needs to have that energy available from glucose at all times. So it's got a lot of locations to do that. This is what a close-up view of a mitochondrion looks like, just one. Notice it's got all those like layers inside of it. where the chemical reactions take place. Okay, general formula. You should write this down. Find that extra note paper that you put in your binder last week. You should probably be writing on that. Did you save that paper? This wasn't it. The general formula for respiration is oxygen plus glucose yields water plus carbon dioxide plus energy. Come on. Okay, let's take a look at an animation, an animation that relates to respiration. Hopefully. You tell me what you see going on, and tell me what's missing. According to this animation, Derek, what is that square structure? Nope. Watch it again. See if you can figure it out. Where does it come from? No, chloroplast is for photosynthesis. What are we talking about today? There we go. That square structure is the mitochondria. What goes into the mitochondria? Tyler Road. And? Nope. Watch it again. Glucose goes into the mitochondria, and oxygen goes into the mitochondria. What goes out of the mitochondria? Landon. Carbon dioxide and? Wait for it. That was in. This is out. Water. And in this particular cell, where does the water go? Megan, where does the water go in this cell?
Not sure.
What is that?
It's mitochondria.
Nope.
That's a cell.
That was a cell. Where was the water specifically? Watch it again. What is that thing?
No.
What's the thing that stores water? Ooh, Wednesday is not going to go well for you. Come on. Big thing in the middle. Stores water. Matthew. The vacuole. Correct? Make sense? What's missing from the animation? Emily?
Energy?
Yes, in the form of a molecule called ATP. That does not show that these two actually make a molecule called ATP, which is kind of silly since that's the most important part. All right, moving back. You might want to write a few of these from this animation. This is going to go through respiration in a big picture fashion.
Everyday activities require energy. Humans, like all living organisms, need to fuel their actions, similar to the way a car requires fuel to run. To fuel all this physical work, our bodies break down food molecules and extract their energy. We rely on this process, called cellular respiration, to run smoothly so that we'll have the energy needed to exert ourselves, or just relax. In cellular respiration, plants, animals, and all other living organisms harvest energy by breaking down energy-rich molecules. In this example, a bison ingests grass, digests the food, and delivers food molecules to cells of its body. As energy is released by the reactions of cellular respiration, cells capture and store the energy in the bonds of ATP molecules, the chief energy currency of the cell. This plentiful, readily available stored energy in ATP can then be used as needed to fuel the activities of the organism. Cellular respiration requires oxygen, which the animal inhales, and releases carbon dioxide, which the animal exhales. Water is also released during these reactions. Cellular respiration is a bit like photosynthesis in reverse. Note that in photosynthesis, oxygen and sugar are products of the reaction, while they are inputs in cellular respiration. In cellular respiration, carbon dioxide and water are products of the reaction, while in photosynthesis, they are inputs. In photosynthesis, the sun provides the energy to power the reactions, while in cellular respiration, the released energy is stored in the bonds of ATP. Cellular respiration occurs in 3 basic steps: glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the electron transport chain. During these processes, food molecules such as glucose are gradually broken down, and their energy is used to produce ATP.
Okay. Respiration. Megan,
I have a question.
go ahead.
With the plant cells, it said like how the bison eat it. Do they put like extra energy? Like how does the plant energy turn into our energy? Do they store extra energy in them, or does
The plant?
Yeah.
No, it doesn't store extra energy. Remember, when you eat a salad or when the bison eats some grass, you've killed the plant. You've taken any energy that the plant would have used for itself, and instead of the plant getting to use it now, you get to use it.
Okay.
Make sense? Good question. Okay, let's take a look at number 5 on your paper. Filling in the blanks. Glucose and blank enter the cell. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Sure.
So when you eat like a salad or something, like you eat vegetables?
Oh, yeah. Salad and all of the products that you made that are made with flour. Bread and pasta and cake and cookies and anything that has to be made with flour. Flour used to be what plant? Wheat. Most of it is wheat. There's lots of other plants that get turned into flour as well, but most of the stuff that we as Americans eat is wheat. Wheat is a plant. So are the cells still in cell form? No, they're all broken down, mashed up, turned into flour, but rice is a plant. Flour, wheat flour. Potatoes are plants. All the vegetables you eat are plants. All the fruit you eat are plants. So most of your diet, at least most of it, let's say a normal healthy diet, is plant. And then how did the animal, let's say beef or pork or bacon or whatever, how did the animal make its cells? By eating what? Plants. It all starts with the sun. And the sun provides the energy to the plants, and then everything else, food-wise, comes from there. Yep.
So if we eat like chicken, are we eating the animals?
We're eating animal cells. And how did the chicken form those animal cells?
By eating plant cells?
By eating plants. Or other animals that ate plants. Okay. Sometimes chickens eat like grubs and not mosquitoes, but insects and things like that. All right, let's continue on. On your study guide, do you know where we are? Are you on the right page in your book? What page should we be on?
50.
What page?
50.
51 is where the diagram is. And you should be on your study guide, number 5. Okay. Fill in the blank, number 2. Sabrina, will you read the statement, please?
Blank splits into smaller molecules.
Which of those two, glucose or oxygen, splits into smaller molecules? If you look at the 2 molecules hanging from the ceiling, which one could split into smaller molecules? Keaton? Glucose. Oxygen's too small to split into another molecule. Glucose splits into smaller molecules. Number 3. Dawson, will you read number 3?
In the mitochondria, oxygen is used to break more chemical bonds.
Oxygen is used to break those chemical bonds. Oxygen essentially is like the boxer that comes in and breaks up glucose. at least to some extent. Red rover, oxygen come over and break up the glucose molecules. Okay, next statement. Hannah, will you read number 4? Something is released and 2 things are produced. What's released? What's the whole purpose of this process? Kim, what's released? No. When it means released, it means like now available to be used. What does cellular respiration make?
Energy.
Energy. And then the extra products that are made are
Water and carbon dioxide.
water and carbon dioxide. The sketch that you should have to explain this is on page 51. Draw the mitochondrion, draw the arrows going in, draw the arrows coming out. Don't forget the important one, which is energy. On your sketch for photosynthesis, as I'm walking around, I'm seeing that people are missing that. Your sketch for photosynthesis is on page 49. If you didn't get that, you need the arrows going in, the arrows coming out. And don't forget the one that people always forget, which is sunlight. Not ready? Here we go. I want to spend just a couple moments on the other process for releasing energy, which is called fermentation. How is fermentation, use your definition, how is fermentation different from respiration? It doesn't use something. What doesn't it use? Elizabeth?
Energy?
No, it releases energy from glucose. It still does that. But what does it not use? Look at your definition. Your definition for fermentation is on your test on Wednesday. Megan.
It doesn't use oxygen.
Right, it doesn't use oxygen. If you take cellular respiration and take oxygen out of the picture, that's fermentation. So it doesn't produce carbon dioxide and water, it produces other things. And we use those other things to make certain foods. What 3 foods listed in your book are made by fermentation? Gabe. Bread. Draw a picture of bread, label it bread. I don't have a picture for you because I think you can handle that one. Gabe, can you tell me number 2?
Yogurt.
Yogurt. Draw a picture of a bowl of yogurt. Label it yogurt. You don't have to be super good artists here. Just do your best. And the last one, Gabe?
Cheese.
Cheese. Draw a picture of a wedge of cheese. Label it cheese. Okay. Remember how I said you have a big writing project to do after this test is over, correct? Yes, that writing project begins on Monday. Your test is Wednesday. Then we have a little break and we come back. Here's some information you're going to need for that writing project. Take a look up front. If we compare photosynthesis to respiration, what do we find? How do those compare? Let's see. Elizabeth.
They're the exact same, but instead they're flipped around and light and APT are different.
Good. But they're both forms of energy. These 3 things are called you're going to see this word when you read your articles. These are called reactants. The reactants are the starting materials. What do they become in respiration? The reactants for photosynthesis become, do you know what this side of the equation is called? If you make something, it's called a product. The reactants for one reaction become the products for the other reaction. Notice the products of photosynthesis are the reactants for respiration. So these two equations, these two processes are backwards. If you turn in your book to page 52, it gives you another diagram of this same concept that I'm talking about. To emphasize the loop, pay attention to this. You'll need to know all about the photosynthesis respiration loop for your writing project.
I'm just a little seed trying to go deep. Humans just keep taking this run. Not cool. There's a saying that goes like, don't let unbelief defeat you. Too late for them. I started off as an embryo, just come to see the moon on my back. It's all I need. Will help me cross my roots, my stem, even my leaves. Take the yellow vibe for allow me to breathe. Now I'm making all this glucose just for me. This is a plant thing, so humans turn into bees. They start taking over, take my action for their needs. But it's because of my O2 that they can breathe. Eating my clothes fast, when their food's green. Even when it's cake with whipped cream, that still came from me. You can't lie to me. We all relate to people, why you stealing from me? Huh? Huh? Why you stealing from me? Why you stealing from me? Why don't you just let me be? Is it because I have what's right? Chloroplast, water, CO2 and light. We all have mitochondria with a cycle named PEG, but it's useless with no glucose, so they still runs inside with 6 CO2 and 6 H2Os. And the sun's glow that allows me to grow. I made C6H12 and 6 of the O's. Maybe from my O's so the wind can blow. We both can reverse what's useful for me. Cycling the molecules to make ATP. I can do it all. I can cycle free. You can't take the heat, so you sell it for me. From the yellow god, only I get advantage. Thanks to my surplus, you can manage. I like to dedicate this song to all my fellow Z's. Take that from me. I like to make a shout out to my teacher, Ms. Byer. Thanks for helping.
That's right. Thank your teachers. Okay, here's one more. Pay attention to this as well. Talking about the loop. Okay. Any questions?